one thing we try to talk about with our technicians is, humble swag.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into a job site, that customer needs to know you're going to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
They need to feel like you're the man.
Right.
But you can't come in there pumping your chest like you're the man.
That's right.
Right. So, that's one thing we talk about in our service meetings. We discuss all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We discuss, don't forget where you come from.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people who paved the road, before us.
Yeah.
And we never want to forget that.
Yeah.
And we won't stop feeding that into our guys. And
The High Fire Podcast is your go-to for straight talk on the steam and boiler industry. Get knowledge you can use, stuff that matters, like tech, safety, industry trends, and more. Whether you're an engineer, a tech, or a plant manager, we've got the info that matters to you from steam industry experts. Tune in and stay fired up. What makes a great boiler technician? Industry veterans discuss the traits, skills, and training needed for success in this demanding but rewarding field.
Well, welcome to WARE's High Fire Podcast. Great to see you. Please, if you will, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and share those videos for us, as that helps our algorithm. Now, each time, guys, we always start off with a dad joke. We're changing it up a little bit. Everybody's got to take a drink of water, and then I'm going to tell you mine, and we'll see if you spit it out. It's just pretty funny.
Hope it's better than last time.
Got to hold it in. Yep. Okay. Y'all ready? Mm-hmm. What do you call a girl laying in the middle of a tennis court? A net. Told you it was going to be a good one. All right, go ahead. Jude, you got one?
yeah, hold on, we got a drink. Yeah.
What was the answer? Shoot. He said that.
We'll let Travis and Daniel go later. So, but we're going to get started, and this is kind of an episode that is a little near and dear to my heart. Not because I was a boiler technician, but because our dad was a boiler technician. So, as a kid, we kind of know what it was like to grow up in a household with a boiler technician, and so for the audience, we have some guys here that have some industry experience that we always like to bring in and get their views from. So why don't you introduce yourself, Jude, and we'll go around the room and then we'll get rolling.
Jude Wolf, WARE Boiler U instructor.
How long you been with us?
I guess 25 years this year.
And then technician, you were a technician for how long?
Between 12 and 15, depending, because when I was always kind of a hands-on guy. If I'm doing a project management and it's not going the way I need to go, I'm just going to get in there and do it because I wasn't going to run my own schedule.
Yeah. Well,
Daniel WARE, been with the business 25 years, and I'm over the operations side of the business. So I do get to see and implement a lot of the technician type of stuff. But good thing we have a bunch of good guys under me because I'm definitely not a technician.
Yeah.
We got awesome people like Travis and Jude that actually know the technical side very well. So I really focus on the operational efficiencies and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Travis Miller. I'm the service training director. I was a service technician for about 7 years here with WARE, and now my position really is to build service technicians.
Yep. And Travis, you've been on here before, so you're experienced now. Yeah. So we actually had you back. It must have been good.
It must have been something. I'm not sure it was good.
Well, just to start it off, I've got tremendous amount of respect for what you guys do and have done. And when I was coming in this morning, it was 17 degrees walking inside. My mind always goes to, oh man, our guys are out in this, and it's just a tough job right now when it's cold, the way it is. Obviously in the heat, it's tough then too. But man, in the cold, it's just like this pain that you guys have to go through.
Yeah. And you can watch the weather because, there's equipment out there that's not insulated.
Yeah.
That'll start up or something when you told them, hey, that needs to be weather protected in July.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, we won't have it that long. And when it hits the teens, you just know that in the wind, it's like stuff's freezing up somewhere.
Yes.
For the phone to ring. Yeah.
Big old popsicle.
Yeah.
And they will freeze up quick.
Surprised me.
Yeah.
It seemed like everybody around here has waited.
Yeah.
Till now. Like we've had mild temperatures.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, if we need to fix those things that we didn't fix.
Same thing every year.
Yeah. It creates those emergencies that we love, but we also, try to get people to prepare for them, and they don't do it. But let's just start off. What is a good characteristics of a boiler technician? Maybe just start right there. What do you think that the characteristics are of a good boiler tech?
Well, I think you got to be curious, because not everything you do is cut and paste. You got to have interest in how things work and have the drive the desire to see stuff work. And you have certain level of independence, because, so nobody wants to call Danny and say, what do I do here? What do I do here? Daniel doesn't want that either. So we've got to go out there and make decisions for the best interest of the customers, where everybody created.
Yeah. I would say humility plays a big role in, how we select guys to become technicians. Their initiative too, what kind of initiative that they have, and how hardworking that they are. You got to be like a self-starter. You have to be somebody that can work on your own. You have to be independent out there in the field. And Jude and I were talking about it earlier. It's got to be something that you love to do. You got to like to fix things.
Mm-hmm.
For us, and we were talking about this earlier, is, there was some kind of return that we got, a purpose or some meaning that it brought into our life to be able to go out and to help people, to be of service to people out in the field, to be able to come in and help them get their boilers back online, to be able to fix their problems. If that doesn't fire you up, if it doesn't light you up inside when you do that kind of work, then this probably isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, our retention has been so good, and we've been so blessed to select good people.
Yeah.
Right. And we've kind of had a dog and pony show that we ran for a long time. And we've always started with the guy that's got the right moral compass. We want good people.
Right.
And then we can build a man after that. So, we love to go select the guys who have been raised on a farm. They're innovative when the baler breaks down at midnight, or they're
Yep.
harvesting, whatever. The supply house isn't open to go get parts. So they got to figure out how to make it work. We absolutely love getting those kids or young men, they just turned out to be fantastic. And I live in a little town in Lanesville, and there's probably maybe 1,000 people in the town, and I don't know how many I've hired, but it's been a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to move to another town so I can suck. Some more guys.
Well, back to something you said, humility, I think, is something that is, it's a word I know that we use around here a lot, but there's a word that was not said, and that's confidence. And I think that confidence can lead sometimes to arrogance without humility.
Right.
Maybe expand a little bit on that, as far as like, how do you keep your humility when you're a rock star, you show up on site and you are the lone guy to get this boiler on, and when you do get it done, it feels pretty good. So we've talked about guys that feel like Superman around here, and love to just go out and take, open up as Superman, and they go out and take care of things. But man, keeping that humility is so important. Maybe just, again, talk a little bit about that.
I think remaining teachable is a big part of it too. If I think I know everything, if what I don't know is got to be more important than what I think I do know, then it keeps me humble, I think, and most of our guys are humble, if they remain teachable. They all do a really good job.
Yeah. Well, the boiler will humble you. Well,
yeah.
Just
sure as
well, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think when you are troubleshooting, it's an information gathering process. And so you have to have a good relationship with the guys that you're arriving to do work for, because, yeah, it's true. If they could fix it, I wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always the case. Sometimes they're just too busy. They already know what's wrong and they tell you. But when you're troubleshooting an unknown, you got to know what's happening when, and you got to have conversations about it.
Yep.
And I definitely know there are service techs that they go in and they make the customer mad because they're like, well, I tried to tell them this or that. And it's like, I will always listen to what the customer says. I'm always going to double check the facts, but he's going to point me in the direction. Like, what are the symptoms? It's like go to a doctor. It may not do it when you're there. It may be something that fails every Monday morning when you're not there. So you have to gather that information. And unless you have communication, you're not going to do that. And if you don't have, you're not going to get the job done.
Right.
And what, really, Rich, when you say that with confidence, one thing we try to talk about with our technicians is, humble swag.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into a job site, that customer needs to know you're going to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
They need to feel like you're the man.
Right.
Right. But you can't come in there pumping your chest like you're the man.
That's right.
Right. So, that's one thing we talk about in our service meetings. We discuss all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We discuss, don't forget where you come from. There was a lot of people who paved the road, before us.
Yeah.
And we never want to forget that.
Yeah.
And we won't stop beating that into our guys. And in Travis's role is, as managing all of these men, he's really pushing those soft skills and those guys continually, especially when he sees something that might be a little bit out of kilter and they might need to get.
Sure. Well, and if you do have that arrogance as, especially a young tech, if there's an arrogance and you're walking into a boiler room, there might be an operator there that's been there 40 years, and you come in as an arrogant tech, it does not mix well.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And this is a business too, where guys have been around an awful long time.
Yeah.
So I know as a young guy coming up in the business, it was very intimidating going into a boiler room, and you don't have any gray hair or anything. I still don't have gray hair, but I'm getting
You got a few.
like when I try to grow a beard, I can't really grow a beard, but I'll get some great patches right here. But that is one thing, that it is very, when you go into those jobs, yeah, it's very intimidating.
Yeah.
When you're not the guy who knows as much as them.
Right.
Well, if you've got the right attitude when you're working on the job, not everything you try is going to be the right thing. It's not necessarily going to fix the problem. If you go in and you're arrogant, you get one shot. You better fix it or you're gone.
Yeah.
If you go in and you're like, look, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I think. What do you think? Let's try that. Everybody concurs. That sounds like a logical direction to go. If it's not the answer, then they're a lot more receptive.
Right.
They're gunning for you if you come in with the wrong attitude.
Sure. Well, we talked a little bit about characteristics, and then there's actually, we can maybe move to skills. And, what are the skills that are required as a boiler technician?
Logic. I mean, obviously you're trying to put together an answer from clues and it's the scientific method. It's like, here's what's happening. I think it may be this. Here's what we're going to do. We'll see what the result is, and that fixes or it doesn't. And that's an important thing. It's really easy when you're new at troubleshooting to have found a certain problem at one site and you think, oh, that's the problem everywhere I go. You got to go in with fresh eyes and look at the situation and make a valid assessment. The same thing won't work every time.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, I think too, a lot of people think they have to have a certain particular background to be able to do this job. And, as much time as we've spent going to vocational schools and recruiting and talking to these guys out in the field, guys that come from IT backgrounds, they'll be really good at doing this job. Guys that come from electrician backgrounds, from HVAC backgrounds, mechanical, just guys that have those foundations of those skills seem to really excel once we put together, what we teach them with what they already know.
Yep.
And when you came in though, mechanically, where were you at with your skill set?
When I came to WARE, you could have set a pump and a motor in front of me and I couldn't have told you which one was which.
Yeah.
Now, as far as mechanically, I mean, I couldn't even have told you what a nut driver was, to be honest with you, as far as tools go. And Daniel sent me to all kinds of schools, electrician schools, just send me all over the place to train me. And then working with these senior guys here on the job training, and then it just really elevated, my skills.
You can tell a lot about a guy when he brings his tool bag in. And I remember when Travis come in, we were kind of chuckling because we were like,
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I thought, I walked into WARE the first time, I think it was like 2007 or something, and I was like,
Star Wars lunchbox.
what the hell have I got myself into? I mean, I'm going to Harbor Freight and picking me up some Pittsburgh wrenches and whatnot, just to pretend like I have my own tools. I didn't even have my own tools when I got here,
But I bring that up just to make the point, though. You can have super talented guys, very smart, and Travis actually launched quicker than any service technician we've ever had. So the guys that are very smart and could pick it up, we had guys like Jude who would build into them and mentor to try to bring them along.
And come on.
I think a lot of it's about just the attitude of interest in it. You're going to have to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And if you thrive in that environment, you're going to teach yourself a lot.
Yeah.
You learn from watching senior guys, and sometimes you're like, that's not how I would do it, whatever, but you develop, you find your own way. And that's kind of what I feel like our training program is. We're not teaching them do this, if this, if this, if this. We're teaching them how to think, how to troubleshoot, what tools are available, because you're going to walk into stuff that you haven't seen before, and you're going to have to figure it out from what you know. It's not all follow this recipe.
Yeah. And we have to recognize, too, as trainers and supervisors, how someone's learning. We had a guy come through who was being perceived as that he really wasn't into it because he wasn't diving in and taking the wrenches. But after talking with him, the way he learns is by watching.
Right.
So when we said, hey, the perception is you're not all into this, he was like, oh, my gosh, that's totally not it. Like I learned by reading books or by watching someone do something.
Right.
And then we're trying to help the guy that he's going with, let him know how he works. And then it's like he did a 180.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yep.
How quick he spun.
It's one of the biggest things is too, initially when guys come in, is learning the way that they learn.
Yeah.
I need to know how you learn. Do you learn more hands-on? Do you learn more classroom? Do you learn more by watching? That's one of the things that we try to sort out early on from the beginning about how a guy learns, how he can best learn.
Yeah.
Because everybody's different. You can't expect everybody to be the same way I am.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. Like if I read something, I don't even remember what I read.
Yeah.
But if you show me how to do something, I can do it that way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, well, I eventually can read. I just might have to do it 3 times. I'll get there.
Sure.
One of the other skills I think that's so important of a tech that we haven't touched on is communication. How you can have the smartest technician in the world going into a job site, and they absolutely can mess things up really fast because they don't have the ability to have good communication skills. Maybe expand a little bit on that as far as like in your journey, Jude, as a technician and what you learned early and then where you ended up.
Well, I came out of a communications background.
Yeah.
So, talking about coming from wherever, I was a journalism major, but I grew up in a boiler family, so you kind of got both sides.
Sure.
No, I mean, you need to be able to gather information. You need to give customers updates. You need to maintain good relationships with the people while you're working there.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to give them honest information. How long is it going to take to get this running? Well, I don't know now, but I've narrowed it down to this, when production's down, if you're not giving them any information and they don't see progress, they're going to call somebody else and send you out,
Yeah.
So, and it's key, even just filling out an M&L when you're writing a report of what you did, customer doesn't want to see, a 4-line thing when they get an invoice. They want to know what you checked, what you did, and how you followed through with it. And all those come into play. And really just communications, one of those things not everybody's got. And I've done on the job training with guys that I could watch them do it, but I wasn't getting a lot of I wasn't getting a stream of information to help me really learn it. And then I think that's one of the things that led me towards the instruction side is there are people who can do it and not be able to talk about it.
Right.
And there are people who could talk about it who can't do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get both.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And the guy who is maybe real brash, you know, and just comes out and says, well, a customer doesn't want to hear your boiler's junk.
Right.
They don't want to hear that.
That's how I'm describing.
So how do you communicate, you know, is what we preach on a lot too. Right. So, you know, maybe it's, hey, your boiler's going to need a lot of work here to get this up and going. You know, that's more so how we like to have our guys approach things. Yeah. In their communication.
Yeah, I think as these guys get out there in the field and they get to dealing with different customers as well, that they learn how to adapt, because different people, you know, you have to use different communication skills with different customers and different personalities, and it's always changing. You're always going to a new place and always, you know, going to different customer sites, and everybody's different, man. So it takes a real special person to be a service technician with a special skill set, and the soft skills and the communication is stuff that we do work on quite a bit with our guys, you know, making sure that that they're capable, and we do ride-alongs with them in the field, you know, before they become service technicians, and kind of evaluate them on how they interact with the customer, and make sure that their skills are up to par for what we expect here at WARE.
Yeah, and part of the communication too is in documentation. Yeah, with our material and labor sheets, right? Like Jude said, you don't want to write 2 sentences on there. We want to be very descriptive on what we did, you know, when we went to that job site. Yeah, you know, so the documentation is what we really preach hard on for our guys as well.
Yeah, it's you know, you think about you guys going on the job site, and you know, that plant is down, and it could be because that the boiler operator, or, you know, the supervisor, or whatever it was in that plant, there was something they didn't do from a maintenance standpoint that has caused this now to happen. And above him or her is a boss wanting production. They're wanting production going. That's the only way they can make profit. And now all of a sudden you've got that gentleman or the lady that when you come in that is basically saying, you better get this thing going, because he knows that his job's on the line. I mean, I'm sure you all run into that a little bit.
Yeah, we've definitely written up some M&Ls over explanatory, you know, add a lot of detail so it doesn't look like, you know, the switch was off. You know?
Yeah, right.
Run into the simplest problems, and it's just an oversight.
Yeah.
You don't want anybody's head on the block for that.
No.
And so we want to make sure we want to be considerate when we write that stuff up. That builds a lot of equity with the customer.
Yeah. Yes. Is there anything else on M&Ls? Because it's been brought up a couple times that you would want to add to, you know, what needs to be on the M&L.
Well, I just think it's important to remember when you fill out a worksheet what you did. You're not just communicating to the customer what they're getting a bill for, but if there's another call in the future, or repeating calls, or, you know, if I'm going to go to a job site 6 hours away, I'm going to look up that customer and see what we did every time we were there last, because sometimes there are pieces of the puzzle there scattered in that information. And so the more people write down, you're like, oh, this is a recurring thing. Here's what we've done. So I'm not going to show up and change out the check valve again. You know, I think there's a bigger problem. And sometimes, you know, you go into a site and stuff's just always been that way, and it shouldn't be going off on low water. And you dig into it, and 6 months ago, they raised the system pressure, and it turns out to be a more engineering problem. Like, they don't have the right size feed pump for their load now, or they're operating at higher pressure and they can't push water into the boiler with the pump that they have. So I think that looking into I joke about it. I call it gasket archaeology, because you'll go in and you'll see like 5 layers of gaskets from different things. And the thing is like, you look at what's there and you're like, okay, that's not the factory air switch for this burner. So I know somebody's changed that out, but was that the real problem? Because I'm back, you know, let's look at the dampers, let's look at the fan. I mean, it's the history in the M&L. The better the history you have, the better a side option you have for figuring out how to fix it.
Yeah. What are, maybe give some advice and some tips of staying organized, how do you, or even managing your time. Maybe just give some tips as a technician. How do you stay organized out there with all the different jobs that are going on?
Well, sometimes you just get done with one job, you throw your stuff in the back of your truck and you haul to the next one, then you dig through it to find the tool you need next time. I mean, that happens because when it's cold and things are breaking out there, you're running from one job to another. But I think it's important to know what stuff you need the most and what you got on your truck to save a customer a trip or a courier or something like that. It's important to know where you're going next because, we cover a wide area. We got a lot of techs. So sometimes just a little communication. Hey, who's in that neck of the woods now? That's organization. And at the end of the day, if you don't complete your M&L and send it in, you don't get paid for the job. So, that's the bottom line, really. When I first got into the boiler business, I had a milk crate. When I did a startup, I'd put, file folders for each one and have manuals for the equipment that are there. And now, Travis has given the new guys iPads. So boom, they've got what they need. They're not digging through the old milk cart.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I've still got that in my office. I can't get rid of it. It's still in there. It's like history, you go through and look at that stuff, but is it organized? That's another sort of, but it gets you a long way.
I think organization is a great idea until you're out in the field and shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
It's a great, idea of time management organization, but if you're really a service tech and you're in the field and it's December, January, you're doing the best you can with what you got usually, procrastination is probably the worst possible thing that I can remember, thinking, no, I'm tired. I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll take care of that later. And then next thing you know, it's 2 days later and you're in another state.
Right.
You didn't do what you were going to do 2 days ago, so that would be the main thing I would think especially for the newer guys when they get out there, don't put off to tomorrow what you can do today.
Yeah. 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 Are there any, are there any tips, about actually just starting off as a new technician and when they first get into that truck, keeping your truck clean, just things like that you see these young techs go through, and maybe through their evolution of becoming a tech, that you see the difference in their organization early to later.
Most of the new guys that are coming through right now, I haven't really seen any organization issues with, the way they're doing things. The example has been set and the bar has been set from our senior guys, who have so much respect from the younger guys that are coming through right now. And they just want to be like them and do the things that they're doing, for our senior guys here at WARE. And they hold them in such high regard that, and the other thing that's great about WARE is that if you're not keeping your end up to the standard of what this company is, of the standard of what a service technician is in this company, the other guys are going to let you know about it, right? Like, I'm going to let you know. Some of the other guys out in the field are going to let you know about it, not in a bad way, but they're going to let you know, man. Like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There was many times where senior technicians sat me down and talked to me. Now, did I listen all the time? Probably not, but there was a lot of times where I was sat down and talked to, and they were trying to help me.
Yeah.
And that's one of the greatest things about being here, man. It's such a family team environment that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
And I think we've really tried to, with the help of the technicians, organize how we present jobs to them for their dispatches, organize the technology side so they're on their M&Ls, their expenses and their per diem reports and all that stuff can go into a really nice and neat, place on our M&L platform. So then they're able to send it in. But I think having a system, and I think everybody's system is probably different, because not everybody dispatches the way we do.
Yeah.
So I'm not real sure how ABC company does it.
Yeah.
So, I think the advice I would be able to give and to help is, not because I wasn't a technician, but have a system, have a system on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I wake up, I check emails, check my calendar, whatever, just make sure, put a system in place.
Yeah, and like Jude was saying, if I'm a new guy and I come in here, I'm a new hire, and I want to be a service technician. Before I start my training, one of the first things that we do is they get issued an iPad, and with that iPad, they have all their manuals. They can we have a share file system here that we share information with all the technicians that they get to use. Email, all that stuff is right here on that pad. While when I was a service technician, we had 75 manuals in the back seat piled up everywhere, papers everywhere. And now they have that technology today. It's amazing. And it really is.
Yeah. So papers everywhere. How important is a clean truck? Organized truck. Maybe that would.
It's not. It can help you get the job done if you can find the tools you need.
Yeah.
And it definitely, like, and speaking of tools, like I would have a little kit just for PMs because I had the tools I needed. I didn't need to carry in a 250-piece socket set to do a PM. I had a little box that had exactly what I needed for that type job. We don't carry everything we might need for a job around with us all the time. Threaders, bigger pipe wrenches, stuff like that. Soot vacs, there's just stuff that you would have to coordinate having when you needed it. And you learn that over time for sure.
Sure.
You can go buy the Craftsman or the Snap-on 20,000 piece kit, and you're not carrying that in. You're going to carry in what you need.
Right. Right. The when you're starting off, is there let's talk certifications. Like, people have certifications, go to school, you get a degree, whatever it is. As a technician, I'm coming in. Is there any type of certifications that I have to have?
Oddly, not in Kentucky or Indiana. I mean, you're working for a licensed contractor. They're carrying a master's license, but there's not a journeyman boiler technician license. There's HVAC,
yeah,
but we don't get really grouped into that because there's such a vast amount of stuff that does not pertain to us.
Right.
So it's really it's such a niche thing that there's not really a designated certificate for it.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I think a lot of the stuff that's out there that I got early on was from manufacturing.
Yeah.
I'd go to a Lochinvar school, I'd go to a power flame school, I would go to Rearsbow, Raypack, wherever you're going to go, and you got those credentials.
Yeah.
But there's not a college for going to become a boiler technician.
Yeah.
Now there are states that have examinations you have to take to be an operator.
Yep.
But that may not even pertain to working on the boiler. That's right. It's kind of ironic. But in some states there are. And so that does vary a lot state by state. But I've never had anybody ask for my papers when I rolled into the plant to get their stuff running either. They're like, get back there, we'll figure out, we have safety training requirements, second jobs, and we've got training that we do here, the confined space, the arc flash, basic stuff like that we have to do because that's OSHA required. But it's not like you get a big certificate that says you completed these 5 things and you're good for 10 years. Every year you're taking the same courses, which is good because we need to keep it in mind.
Yeah.
And one thing though, we're talking about the technician side so much on the pressure vessel side as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any type of certification to come in and work on the boiler. But if you're going to strike an arc on the boiler, that's trying to be weld set, in whatever procedure that, that the company is using.
Right. Right. Travis, maybe talk a little bit about how you're handling the new guys coming in. I mean, he mentioned OSHA, right? And is it a, hey, here's the book?
No.
I mean, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, you talk about a certain credentials or a certification that you had to have to be a boiler service technician. And we kind of created our own here. As far as when you're new and you come in, you go through some electrical training so that you're certified to work on electrical stuff here, qualified electrical worker training, and some boiler 101 training that we do first right off the bat. But you actually go through a process here where, without giving away too many of our secrets,
There are 10 written tests that you have to pass with 100% here at WARE to become a boiler service technician. And then there's a 3-day practical exam that you have to actually pass. We're lucky enough to have the Boiler University location here in Louisville. And we have a full live boiler room with 5 boilers there, and 2 classrooms with tons of trainers and things that we can use to test these guys on and work with them and train them. And they go through a pretty rigorous 3-day process of, okay, you're ready to become a service technician. You've passed all your written tests. Show me. Show me that you can do this. Show me that you can do this. Show me that you can do this. And they go through that for about 3 straight days at Boiler University. So that's kind of what we do. That's kind of our own personal company certification process that you have to go through to become a service technician.
Yeah.
And the guy that comes in that already has a decent base,
Right.
He can test out. He can go ahead and take those 10 tests,
Right.
or 6 tests, or whatever it is, and go ahead. So he can kind of fast track to we can say, all right, they check all.
So for those 10 tests that we administer to our guys, and the process takes about a year. We have an actual set amount of hours per each of those 10 tests. Those are 10 categories that we've chosen here that we think are foundational things to becoming a boiler service technician. So once you have X amount of hours in training for that particular topic of those 10 tests, then you're eligible to take that test. If you have prior experience before you come here, then we set a percentage. I think it's 25% of the hours that are required for that topic, and you can test out of that subject. Okay. So you don't have to take the full year to get through all the testing. If you have some prior experience, you can go ahead and test out at 25% of those hours. Like say, we'll just throw out flame safeguard as a topic. Okay. If 200 hours is required in flame safeguards, then 25% of that is 50 hours. So if you've got 50 hours of training on flame safeguards, which could be in the field, could be a boiler U, once you have those 50 hours, you're eligible to test out of that topic if you want to go on to the next.
Good. Okay. Any other things on that? No. As far as the journey, let's talk a little bit about maybe the journey. The guy comes out of your out of the training, and he is given a truck. Maybe talk about that journey as that initial technician of just kind of his career, if you will, of what kind of happens at that when he first gets that truck, and then how does he stay up on new technologies? How does he progress?
I'll tell you, when I got my truck, when I became a service technician, I was terrified, because I had always been with another technician, and I always had somebody there holding my hand or training me or showing me the way to do things. And now I'm going to be on my own, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to deal with customers, and I'm going to be expected to know what I'm doing. And here's the thing. It's good to be afraid. It's good to have a little bit of fear, I think, for these guys when they're new. But what happens is that fear turns into confidence. They go out and they realize that, okay, they've had this training and they've done this over the last year or however long it's taken them. And they go out, oh, I know what that is. I know what that problem is. I can fix that. And then they fix it and they get a little bit of confidence. And they come back and they call me and tell me, guess what I did? I just fixed this. This was what was going on, and you can just see it start to build in them, and we talk about this all the time. I think, and Jude probably backed me up on this, I think it's probably a good 5 years of doing this job, 5 years of being in the field before you're really, really confident in what you're doing.
Sure.
So that first year of training, which is, you're kind of in the nest, and then that next couple of years after that is when you really start to build your skills in the field and really start to, for me, I have to either break it or I have to figure it out. Maybe I don't know, but I have to figure out what the problem is on my own before I really progress with the knowledge and the skills that I have.
Well, and also just, your confidence starts to become better and better because of the work that you actually put in.
Right.
If you never do the training and you were put out on a job, there's no confidence there. But I mean, obviously the work and the hard work that you put into the training really helps, I think, set your confidence for, being out there as a tech, and then you get rolling. Obviously, you're going to run into some issues, but it's no different than, athletics or anything else, is that, your confidence is in how you approached the job and to learn the job. And if you have that skill set, you've been working so hard in the classroom and reading books and asking questions and so on and so forth, and that's really going to help I think the technician excel a little bit further. What are some of the biggest challenges that you think? Maybe just throw out real quick some challenges as a technician.
You mean challenges in training, or challenges maybe once you get out?
As a technician, what are the biggest challenges, I think, that are out there?
Well, we talked about time management earlier, and I think one of the biggest challenges, and I tell guys this when they come in, and it's really I don't try to scare them off, but I want them to understand what they're getting into. It's a really rewarding job, but it's a really demanding job. And one of the biggest challenges for my guys is when they first get out into the field and they're on their own is, we talked about time management before, but when I leave the house, I can't say I know when I'm going to be back. One of the biggest challenges is just the not knowing. I don't know that I'm going to be home at 3 or 4 or 5 p.m. I might be home at 3 or 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is a service company. We're a 24 hour, 7 day a week business. This isn't a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things that I've seen in the past few years for guys to deal with is just the not knowing. I can't tell you that I'm going to be at this place on Friday to grandma's 78th birthday party. I can't tell you that. I can't promise you. I can't make that commitment.
Yeah.
Because I don't know for sure where I'm going to be. And just the not knowing is really hard for some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my joke is, when I was in field service, I never knew when I was going to get home. Now that I'm doing training, I just know that I'm not. I can just not going to go. I can just look at my schedule and say, okay, I'm gone this week, this week, this week, this week. I don't have to worry about when I'm getting home those days because
I just know that I'm gone.
I'm in Topeka or something.
Well, and I love that you brought this up, because I think this gets into one of the really important pieces, and that is your family life. Because what you just said was, I'm gone. And, I can remember as a kid, my dad was gone and he just worked, and you didn't know when he was coming back, he had jobs that he had to go on. Sometimes I would even go with him, on a job here and there. But I got to, he didn't get to come to my games. He wasn't at some of the birthday parties. Sometimes you had to leave a Christmas party or whatever it was. And I can even remember, some in even my upbringing here at the company of going through the rental division of doing a birthday party for one of your kids and getting a rental call of an emergency and having to walk away. And you guys as service technicians, how do you balance that? How do you handle that? Because this is a very difficult business to be in and stay married. Correct? Let's just call it what it is. It's tough.
Well, in my service life, I was just grateful that I could generate an income that provided for my wife to not have to work. So yeah, I wasn't there every time I could be there or that I would want to be there, but she was the room mom every year that they were there. She coordinated the field day, she tie-dyed 400 t-shirts, she had free reign to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So overall total parent engagement was probably way more. But I think that on the other hand, in service, because it's flexible, sometimes you're like, well, I'm done with this job early. I can surprise my kids and be home,
Yeah.
And it's not for everybody, and I think that if you have to be home at 4:30 or your wife gets irate, it's like, you've got to have the relationship that can support that. My wife knew when I was working, and that sometimes meant that I dropped a camper off for them to camp on Thursday, paid an extra day so they could be camping during the weekend. If I got there on Saturday and saw them, that was great. That's just the logistics of being in the business.
Yeah.
But there are rewards. I'm not in the same place every day working with the same rubber stamp. It's interesting work.
Yeah.
To see things that 99% of people never see.
Yeah.
How everything's made. And so that's the interesting side.
Yeah.
And you've got to thrive on that. And there are guys, if they get a call 11 o'clock at night, they're like, I'm going, they're riding off and that's their moment.
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, tell me what's wrong. Maybe we can fix this over the phone. It's like, if it's a reset, I'm not going to drive 2 hours. We're going to get you squared away. Don't worry. I think there are different personalities and lots of personalities can fit. But at the end of the day, if you have to go, you have to get over that hump. You have to have the resolve to go. You have to have the resolve to complete the issue while you're there, to resolve it.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to show up and say, well, I know what's wrong. We'll see you tomorrow. And the customer's like, they don't want to stay down until tomorrow.
Sure.
They want to be running. So I think seeing things through is a personality aspect that's hugely important because nobody wants a diagnosis. They want their stuff fixed.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got such a heart for our guys that do this, and we just, appreciate them so much, and all the other boiler techs out there that are out grinding and taking care of their families. We think the world of them too. It's an awesome job, but it is so demanding. It's part of our hiring process. We ask questions. Is your wife on board for this?
Yeah.
And one thing Dad did
Yeah.
a long time ago is he would interview the wives.
He would. Yeah.
And I've never done that, but I always implemented, what's your wife think about this?
Yeah.
And if we had one that would say, she'll get over it, we're like, probably not gonna go forward with it. Yeah. Because we've been down that road.
Yeah. Yeah.
But another point to that is, kind of the old school technician would work 3,000, 3,200, 3,400 hours a year. And our guys really said, we'd like to be able to work, 2,400 hours a year. So we made a really considered effort of adding more and more and more men so we could bring those hours down. Now the hours are still there for the guys that want to work it. But we tried to make a real concerted effort to add technicians to where they could get more work-life balance. I know it's kind of a popular term.
Yeah.
More work-life balance.
Yeah.
It's night and day different today just from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
As far as, like Daniel said, I think I had 3,200 hours, 3,300 hours 10 years ago. And, today with the group of men that we have out there in the field and doing this job, they have a much, much better family and home life today than what they had 10 years ago. It's just evolving, it's
great.
It's just getting better and better and better. And I don't want to harp on it, make it sound like it's so demanding and it's all these, there's so many positives. There's so many amazing things about being a boiler service technician. Like G was saying, you get to see how things are made. You get to always be going to new places and meeting new people and you get to fix things. If that doesn't light you up, to go in somewhere to a university or a hospital or somewhere that a housing development that is down and it needs you to come in there to help them, and you get in there and help them and get them back online and provide them with heat or hot water or whatever that thing is that they need that boiler for. There's just so many rewards that outweigh the demands from the job, and the thing that Jude was talking about earlier, but I think it takes a very, very strong woman at home if you're going to be in a relationship and do this job. And like Daniel was saying, I asked the guys when they say, oh, this is what I want to do. And I say, well, I want you to go home and I want you to talk this over with your wife and I want you to pray about it. And I want you to call me tomorrow, do those things and call me tomorrow and then let's talk.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when you're talking about 10 years ago, I can remember 30 years ago, 40 years ago, around the company. And back in the day, overtime was how you made your money.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have the bigger wage like we are able to fortunately have today. And so overtime was how you made money for the family. And I'd watch, and I consider that a blessing as a kid, in being able to watch our dad and our aunt when they were the second generation running the business, and just seeing the technicians coming in here and seeing the guys just, hey, you have to have a rotary phone when you call, whatever, and then pick the phone up and be able to say, hey, I'm not going to be home. We got a rental and we're going to have to stay all night and get this rental ready, or get called out or whatever it is. And it's just, it is different, as Daniel's talking about, I kind of poo-poo that work-life balance stuff too, because I'm just like, oof. We need guys that want to work, but at the same time, we also are trying to create an environment, and I think all service companies should try to create an environment to where it's not just about getting the boiler ready, but it's also about guys that are out there taking care of their families and trying to be a part of that as well. And I think people today are more in tune with that. I mean, want to be involved.
Adapt.
Yeah.
The guy coming into work now is just a little different than what it used to be.
Yeah.
And we've got to adapt with those times.
And that doesn't make it negative.
Not at all.
Right. I mean, it's a positive things that, that there is more involvement, at home, if you will.
Yeah.
But such a blessing, as you were talking about, Travis. There's just there's so much good, and I'm really, really proud of our guys, but I'm proud of our industry that is now starting to be able to pay what you guys, are worth. And I still think that, there's such value in what you guys do at the customer jobs or the job sites. You're a doctor. I mean, you think about it, you're a surgeon, you're keeping things running, and so there's value there. Right. And so, I say this a lot of times when I'm talking about things about the business. And one of the things that aggravated me more than anything was the copy repair guy coming in and charging more than what we were charging for as a boiler technician. That put a light bulb in my head of, man, we need to be thinking about this a little bit. There's no reason for this. And obviously we're fortunate that things had to change. We were able to get the rates up, for our technicians. So, what else? Anything else that, that we've missed?
The only thing that I would say that we have to keep in mind is when you're doing this work, safety is paramount. People want stuff to run, but we have to do it in a safe way.
Yeah.
It's not like I got to do whatever I got to do to get this junker to the house driving.
Right.
You're putting people's lives at risk if you don't make responsible decisions.
Sure.
So I think there's a certain amount of judgment that we require of a service technician versus somebody. I mean, somebody doesn't put the oil plug back in the pan of your car, it's going to die on the way home.
Yeah.
But probably nobody's going to die as a result.
Yeah.
So we've got to have a mesh of skill level and integrity in terms of making sure that we take the right steps for safety, because stuff isn't always going to run when we leave, because sometimes it's not safe for that to be the case.
Yeah.
So there's a certain moral fiber in terms of having the guts to tell somebody, look, you're going to have to make other plans. We can get rental on the phone or whatever we need to do, but you can't run this safely. The way you've been running it is dangerous and it's not functional.
Yeah.
So I think that it's unique in this industry. You can't just run down to Lowe's and buy a new boiler. It's like a small air compressor or something.
Yeah.
So there are repercussions, but you got to make those decisions and stand behind them. So that's sort of overarching everything, is that we've got to keep the people safe, because it's running and it's not safe. That's not going to help anybody.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. It's a great point. We didn't really come up with talk about that safety part, but it is, man, you can't just do things halfway. Just because you're wanting to get out of there quick, right?
That's exactly right. And sometimes you want to get out real bad. Wife's on the phone. I know.
Well, we appreciate you. And again, thank you for hanging out talking with us today and sharing a little bit of your experience. And, we started off with dad jokes, but I think we're going to maybe pass, and you'll have to come back to the next episode on the High Fire podcast to see Daniel and Travis actually tell their dad jokes. We've been going for about 55 minutes, which was awesome. Great discussion. Really appreciate it. But we will see you next time on the High Fire podcast.